You worked it out? Congratulations. All right, we got to know. The people want to know. The big break. How'd you get your big break? How'd you hook up with Island Records?
Well, Tim Dog of Island Records hooked it up for me. My mother is my manager, so somebody had sent him a demo and he liked what he heard. So about 2 weeks later, he got in contact with my mother, and I went down to Island Records, sung for him a cappella, His Eyes on a Sparrow, and about 3 weeks later, I was signed to Island.
Rare and obscure. I know you're wondering why I'm saying the words rare and obscure. I listen to a lot of music. And I have been listening to a lot of music for many decades. And also, with music that's rare and obscure, it's good to hear it sometimes when you come across it again, or pull out an old album, or pull up something on the playlist and you like, I haven't heard this in so long. Instead of saying the word one-hit wonder, I say rare and obscure. And what I mean by that is that sometimes artists who was once in the spotlight, but that spotlight has dimmed, doesn't mean to me that they're a one-hit wonder. I like to call them rare and obscure. And sometimes with rare and obscure music, it takes you back to nostalgic memories, moments in your life. And even though it could be like just one song or one album, that rare and obscure moment could leave a lasting impression for a lifetime. I'm Lady T, and you're tuned into The Anecdote, a place where I'll be giving extended R&B commentary on all things in R&B music. And if you're wondering what I mean by extended commentary, sometimes I just want to talk, chat, give a little bit more detail when I'm talking about certain topics or certain things in music. I host a show every Sunday from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on radiophoenix.org that is called Don't Disturb This Groove, where I play the latest and greatest R&B music. And when I say the latest and greatest, I'm talking about artists from the 60s all the way to today. And within my show, I curate a playlist, and in between the songs that I play, I like to give commentary. And the extended commentary that I'm going to be discussing in this episode is 90s R&B artist Mona Lisa. And if you're wondering who is Mona Lisa, well, let me tell you a little bit about who she is. She's a native of Yonkers, New York, and in 1995, at the age of 15, she was signed to Island Records. And by 1996, she released her debut single called Can't Be Wasting My Time, featuring hip-hop group The Lost Boys. And the song was featured on the Don't Be a Menace While Drinking Your Juice in South Central movie soundtrack that was produced in 96, a movie produced by the Wayans brothers. And that was one of the hottest singles off that album, along with Joe. All the Things as well was popular from that movie soundtrack. And like I mentioned, that she was signed to Island Records in 95. Island produced that soundtrack, and that was one of the premier singles that was released for the soundtrack, and also eventually was later on her debut album. Now, Mona Lisa, when she arrived on the scene in 96, she was only 16 years old. So she came out during a time period where teenage and young adult artists was ruling the charts. And I mean, I could give you some names, like she was in the class of Aaliyah, Brandy, Monica, Tevin Campbell, Usher, and the R&B group Immature, just to name a few. Because during that time period, young adults and teenagers in R&B music was doing their thing on the chart. So Mona fit right in when she came out. So 96 rolls on, and in that time period as well, along with her single Can't Be Wasting My Time with Lost Boys, she returned the favor by singing the hook to one of their songs called Renee, which is a very popular song. If you remember in the 90s when the Lost Boys came out with Renee in the music video, very popular. Only difference is that the music video was a different version from the version with Mona Lisa, because the Mona Lisa version, I remember, was always played on the radio a lot. And she had their song Music Makes Me High. And Mona Lisa also has a collaboration with Lil' Kim from the Don't Be a Menace soundtrack. There was another song Mona did called Our Time to Shine, the remix, and it featured Lil' Kim, and they have a music video for it. So she was coming out rolling with the collaborations and the singles. And it's just, at the time, I was young. I was in 8th grade. So I was super into the music. I've always been into music, but I was super into the music back then and keeping up with the latest artists. Because when you had artists that's your age that look like you, that's on TV, that was on radio, it was just a great time to see that. So she was just another artist out there on the scene. But what I remember most about that time period in 1996, there was like a long gap between the Can't Be Wasting My Time and her next single. And then eventually, by June of 1996, her next single, You Said, was released early in June, and then a couple weeks later, her debut album arrived in the stores. 11/20/79 is the title of that album. And I remember thinking, okay, I got the single for You Said, and then I had to turn around and go back and go get the album. And I had it on cassette tape at first. Yes, I come from the era of cassette tapes. Proud of it. But I come from that time period, and I remember I really enjoyed that album. And the thing about it, if you know anything about Mona Lisa, the artist, the music, the sound, as I mentioned, she was 16 years old when she arrived. Vocally, she sounded like a grown woman. To me, she did, because she was 16, but some of them songs on that album, like You Said, Crazy, Our Time to Shine, original version, Keep Leading Me On, Sweet Memories. Doesn't sound like a 16-year-old girl. It sounds like more of a 23-year-old woman. That's just how it sounds. I just remember thinking vocally, she had a great voice. And, she comes from the church. So her background is, singing in church choirs and being raised in the church. So you could hear that in her music, and it carried with her. And by the time, her album came out, the You Said video came out, which I thought was always an interesting music video. The premise of the music video is basically she's going to go see her father that she has a scene, and the video starts off with her mom saying, well, he's gonna let you down, and I always thought that was just an interesting music video, even at that time. But that was the single. The second single was called You Said, and with the single You Said, it was a good song. The premise of the video was cool. The You Said was released in summer of 96, and that was the song that played for mainly most of the summer into the fall, going towards the end of 96. And then they finally released one more single, which I didn't know at the time was going to be the last single that they released, with a video from the album called Just Wanna Please You. And I remember when I got 11/20/79, I played Just Wanna Please You a lot, so I was excited that was the next single, and I was happy that the video was coming, and the video did come for it by 97. And the song was totally different because it was the remix to Just Wanna Please You that came out. The Stevie J remix featuring the Lox, the young Lox. This is when they was getting started with Bad Boy at the time, so 97 was that era of when, the Lox and the Mason and was coming around. So it was pretty cool to see that, because, they're natives of her hometown of Yonkers, New York. So that was good to see that collaboration. But I remember thinking, why didn't they just come out with 2 videos? Because in the 90s, it wasn't uncommon to see the original version and a remix. That was very common. Her record label, Island, I guess they had other plans, because the original version of Just Wanna Please You, I thought was a pretty solid version. It had the sample of the Bobby Caldwell song, What You Won't Do, and that was a cool sample, because I assumed that would be the video. But the Stevie J remix is still fire to this day, so I'm not mad at that. But with Mona Lisa in 97, she was making appearances on Kenan and Kel. She also was a guest on All That. She had a song with her label mates called Voices of Theory, and the song is called Somehow, and it also featured Corrupt from the Dog Pound. So 96, 97, she was doing her thing. She was still trending. And when I say trending, what I mean by that is trending for that time period in that era of when artists was getting, heavy radio play. They was getting a lot of their videos getting shown in rotation a lot on the music stations of that era. And also, by her being a teenager, she is being featured a lot in the teen magazines like, Word Up, Right On, and Black Beat and Fresh. So she was getting that circulation going too. So she was trending when she made her debut in 96 and on to 97. So at the time, from a fan perspective, I thought she was, still making, making moves, making waves. Kind of towards throughout the rest of 97, it started to die down for Mona Lisa. Fast forward to 1998. And if you remember the year 1998 in regards to R&B music, a lot of albums that are now considered influential albums came out in 1998. And Mona Lisa is the same age as, like I mentioned, of Brandy and Monica and Leah and Usher and Tevin. She's in that age group, and at that time, her peers was releasing their sophomore album. Towards the end of 97, Usher had already released his sophomore album, My Way. And into summer 98, Brandy released Never Say Never, along with Monica releasing The Boy Is Mine. And as you remember, those two had a song collaboration for the same title, The Boy Is Mine. And Aaliyah had one of the biggest singles of 98, which is Are You That Somebody, from the Dr. Dolittle soundtrack. So you would think her peers was coming with their sophomore releases and big time singles at that time. Now was a perfect time for Mona Lisa to be back out there on the scene too. She was trying to make her way. She had a song on the Wu soundtrack called Getting It On. And the Woo soundtrack is a movie called Woo, which was featuring lead actors of Jada Pinkett Smith and Tommy Davidson. And Mona had a song on the soundtrack, another movie soundtrack, called Getting It On. And then also in 98 there was a song called Peach. Peach, I guess, was like more of a buzzworthy single to let you know that she was coming back out, she's making her way. And at the time I thought, awesome, Mona Lisa's coming back out, all right, she got some songs out there, everything seems like it's going good. But then nothing, no album, no videos. It was just those two songs in 98. And what I remember about that time and about those two songs, Getting It On and Peach, I remember how distinctively different they sounded from her previous singles and songs that she had from her debut album in 96 from 11/20/79. At that time, I'm still young, I'm still a teenager, so I'm thinking like, okay, maybe this is just a new sound that she's going into. It wasn't like too much of a departure, but what I'm saying by different is that you could tell that she was getting older, so she was going to more of a mature topics, more, adult themes in the music, especially if you listen to like Peach and Getting It On. You listen to both of those songs, because you gotta keep in mind, in 96, she was like 15, 16 when she recorded her first album, so things changed between 15, 16, and 19 and 20, so things changed a lot. So you could tell she was getting to more of her maturity. During the year 1998, Mona Lisa record label Island, the black division Island Black, was going through a major label change. And the label change that happened is that Island Black division merged with Def Jam to become Island Def. And when they merged to become Island Def Jam, they created a subdivision for R&B acts called Def Soul. So eventually what would happen is that Mona Lisa's second album was going to be recorded under the Def Soul label. And while she was working on the sophomore album, it was going to be entitled Getting It On. And Getting It On is the same title of the song from the Woo soundtrack, and also the single Peach that was out in 1998 was going to be on that album as well. Throughout the year 1998, the album never surfaced. And then we go into the year 1999, the album still didn't surface by then. Now as we get into the 21st century, by the year 2000, Mona Lisa and her record label, Def Soul, parted ways. So she went on to go ahead and pursue her higher education. She still remained tied to the industry, keeping her personal relationships in the industry intact while still pursuing her higher education. Now also, in the early part of the 2000s, the early part of 2000s, she was having songs coming up on mixtapes. And in that time period, it wasn't uncommon for R&B artists and rap artists to put songs on mixtapes. It's like a lot of times it was to keep their name out there, keep a buzz going of, that they're still making music. So in that time period of the 2000s, the early part of 2000s, Mona Lisa was turning up on mixtapes at the time. Get to by 2004, the rapper Cameron releases Purple Haze. He had a song called Girl, and Mona actually sung the hook on Girl. He dropped the video, but she wasn't in the video, so she was on the song Girl, and it was good to see her name out there again. And at the time, I was still hoping that sophomore album number 2 was coming. I was really pushing for that as a fan of music. But still, there was still no album. So we get into 2009, and by this time period, she was signed to an independent record label called Entourage Entertainment. And during that time period, she was working on an album called Reckless. Now, Reckless didn't turn up online or in stores. In 2011, Mona Lisa returned back to the movie soundtrack. This time around, it's for an independent movie called The King of Paper Chasing. Her label made from her label Entourage Entertainment, DL. They had a collaboration called First Class that Life featured on that soundtrack. And she was featured on another independent movie soundtrack for a movie called The Heart Specialist that was released in 2012, and the song that was featured on the Heart Specialist soundtrack was called Once Upon a Time. Around 2018, there was an album slated for Mona Lisa to come out during that year. The album has not came out.
Yeah.
All right, now Mona Lisa, I gotta ask you about that. Now I got the name Shamar, and everybody asked me if it's Hollywood. So I'm asking you, did moms give you that at birth, or is that a little Hollywood thing you got going?
Actually, it's a nickname. It's something that me and my family members thought of. We wanted something original and something that, sticks in your head, so we thought of Mona Lisa.
Mona Lisa stick in your head, people? Huh? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All right, now, you're 2 feet tall in diapers, growing up, and all of a sudden you can sing, and you want to sing. Who were some of the artists that you looked up to get where you are today?
Patti LaBelle, Stevie Wonder is one of my favorite artists. Whitney Houston, Billie Holiday, the ones that opened up the doors for others to come through are the ones that really inspired me. Also my mother, she's been a real inspiration to me. In the year 20
2020, this coming summer, June 2020, matter of fact, will be the 24th anniversary of Mona Lisa's debut album, 11/20/79. Been 24 years since that album was released, and I can tell you right now, to this day, I still play that album as if it is brand new. The one thing I did like about the album itself is that production was solid. The sequencing of the songs went in perfect order. The songwriting was interesting, but overall, the most important aspect of the album itself, what made it a solid debut album from Mona Lisa, is that the vocals that she provided on the album. As you know, she's a great singer. If you go back and listen to the project, and as I explained, her voice was well beyond its years at the time. 16-year-old, and she sounded like she was in her early 20s rather than a teenager. So she just provided great vocal work on the album. And like I said, I still play the album very often because it's one of those albums when the artists come out and only make one album in their lifetime and it's a solid album. It's just one of those albums that you consistently play throughout the years, and definitely that's what I did with 11/20/79. 24 years later, the album sound still holds up pretty well. Of course, it's an album that came from the 90s, so of course you're going to have that 90s sound to it. But sometimes when some albums come from the 90s or before, sometimes they can sound a little bit dated. But with 11/20/79, the album doesn't sound too dated. There's a few songs here and there that may sound dated, but overall the album itself is still a fresh listen in the year 2020. Now, Mona Lisa is one of those artists over the years that I wish we would have got more of on the radio, videos, and more albums from her, tours and different things like that. She's just one of those artists that I look back on and just wonder what could have been with her career. I may not know the true inner workings of what happened behind the scenes, but this is just my thoughts and my homage to Mona Lisa, because she's one of those artists, like I mentioned, that she's not a one-hit wonder. She's rare and she's obscure. I'm Lady T, and this is The Anecdote. See you next time.